The sun was setting over the dusty road when Jin Park heard the strange sound outside his garage. It was not like any engine he knew. Jin wiped his hands on an old rag and walked to the door. A motorcycle sat in front of his small repair shop, but it looked nothing like the bikes that usually came through this remote settlement. The machine was sleek and silver, with parts that seemed to glow softly in the evening light. Strange symbols covered its surface, and Jin could see technology he had never encountered before. Next to the bike stood its rider, and Jin had to look twice to make sure he was seeing correctly. The woman was tall, maybe 7 feet, with pale blue skin that had crystal-like patterns running along her arms and face. Her hair was white as snow and fell past her shoulders. She wore a dark riding suit that fit her perfectly. Jin had seen aliens before at the trading posts, but never one like this. "Excuse me," she said, in accented English. Her voice was musical, like wind chimes. "My transportation has stopped working. Do you repair vehicles here?" Roopline. Why? Jin nodded, still staring at the beautiful machine. "I fix whatever breaks down," he said. "What seems to be wrong with it?" The alien woman looked frustrated. "The power core is not responding. I was traveling to the next system, but I cannot continue like this." She gestured at the bike with elegant hands. "I am Zara, by the way." "Jin," he replied, walking closer to examine the motorcycle. "Mind if I take a look?" Zara stepped back, and Jin knelt beside the bike. The technology was far beyond anything made on Earth, or even the nearby colony worlds. The power source seemed to use some kind of crystal matrix, and the engine components were made from materials he could not identify. But Jin had been fixing machines since he was 10 years old, working alongside his grandfather in this same garage. "This is beautiful work," Jin said, running his hands carefully over the smooth surfaces. "I have never seen anything like it. But machines are machines, right? They all have the same basic needs." For the next hour, Jin studied the bike while Zara watched him work. He could not understand the alien writing on the controls, but he could see how energy flowed through the system. There was a blockage somewhere in the crystal matrix, preventing power from reaching the main drive. "I think I can help," Jin said finally. "But I will need to use some parts from my shop. It will not be a perfect fix, but it should get you where you need to go." Zara looked surprised. "You can repair technology you have never seen before?" Jin smiled. "My grandfather always said that if you understand how things work, you can fix anything. This bike wants to run. I just need to help it remember how." Jin went into his garage and came back with several components from old Earth machines. Zara watched with fascination as he carefully connected human-made circuits to her alien technology. He worked with steady hands, occasionally muttering to himself as he solved each problem. "You are very skilled," Zara said. "Most mechanics would not even attempt this." "Most mechanics do not get bikes like yours," Jin replied, adjusting a connection. "Besides, I like puzzles." As Jin worked, they talked. Zara asked about his life in the small settlement, and Jin told her about inheriting the garage from his grandfather. He mentioned his sister Mi Young, who lived in the nearby medical facility and needed expensive treatments for her illness. "It must be difficult," Zara said softly, "caring for family alone." Jin shrugged. "Family is family. We do what we must." He looked up at her. "Do you have family?" Something sad crossed Zara's face. "Yes, but it is complicated." Jin did not press for details. He had learned that travelers often carried burdens they did not wish to discuss. The repair took most of the night. Zara stayed in the garage, sometimes helping by holding tools or providing light. She seemed genuinely interested in Jin's work and asked thoughtful questions about his methods. Jin found himself enjoying her company. She was intelligent and kind, nothing like the cold, proud aliens he sometimes encountered at trading posts. When the bike's engine finally hummed to life, Zara's face lit up with joy. The sound was different now, a mixture of alien technology and human engineering. But it ran smoothly. "This is incredible," she said, running her hand along the bike's surface. Jin calculated the cost of parts and his time. 50 credits should cover it. Zara reached into her riding suit and pulled out a credit chip. When she handed it to Jin, he saw that it was worth 500 credits, not 50. "Wait, this is too much," Jin said, trying to give it back. "Keep it," Zara said, already mounting her bike. "But I cannot accept." "Please," Zara said, and her voice was gentle but firm. Before Jin could protest further, Zara started her bike and rode away into the dawn. Jin watched until her lights disappeared down the road, then looked at the credit chip in his hand. 500 credits would pay for Mi Young's treatments for 2 months. As he cleaned his tools and prepared to close the garage, Jin thought about the mysterious alien woman. There had been something different about her. Something that made him feel like their meeting was more than just chance. The way she had watched him work, the questions she asked, and especially the sadness in her eyes when she mentioned her family. Jin locked up the garage and headed home for some sleep. He had no way of knowing that the woman he had helped was one of the wealthiest beings in the galaxy, or that she would return sooner than either of them expected. Outside, the morning sun rose over the dusty crossroads, marking the end of an ordinary night that had changed 2 lives forever. 3 weeks later, Jin heard the familiar sound of Zara's motorcycle outside his garage. He looked up from the engine he was working on and smiled. She had stopped by twice since their first meeting, each time claiming her bike needed small adjustments. "Back again?" Jin called out as she parked her silver machine. Zara dismounted and pulled off her helmet, shaking out her white hair. "The power flow feels uneven," she said. "I hoped you might take another look." Amarone. Jin wiped his hands and walked over to examine the bike. To his trained eye, it looked perfect. The hybrid system he had created was running better than ever. But he had learned not to question Zara's visits. He enjoyed her company, and she always paid well for even minor work. "Let me check the connections," he said, kneeling beside the machine. While Jin worked, Zara wandered around the garage, looking at his tools and the various projects scattered around the space. She seemed fascinated by everything. From the oldest hand tools to the simple computer he used for diagnostics. "You have been busy," she observed, noting several new vehicles in the garage. "Word is getting around," Jin said. "People heard I fixed an alien bike, so they think I can fix anything now." "Can you?" Jin laughed. "Usually, machines are honest. They tell you what is wrong if you know how to listen." Zara picked up an old wrench from Jin's workbench. "This tool is very old. It was my grandfather's. His grandfather's before that." Jin looked up from his work. "Some things last because they are made well, not because they are new." "Wise words," Zara said softly. As Jin made unnecessary adjustments to her perfectly functioning bike, they talked about many things. Zara asked about human customs and Earth history. She was particularly interested in how humans approached problems differently than other species. "My people plan everything carefully," she explained. "We analyze data, follow procedures, trust only proven methods. But you fixed my bike using instinct and creativity. That is very unusual." "Maybe," Jin said. "But sometimes the best solutions come from trying something new." When the work was finished, Zara did not leave immediately. Instead, she accepted Jin's invitation to share a simple lunch of rice and vegetables from his small garden behind the garage. "This is delicious," Zara said, clearly meaning it. "I have eaten in the finest restaurants across the galaxy, but this tastes different somehow." "How so?" "It tastes like care," she said after thinking for a moment. Jin smiled. "My sister taught me to cook. She said food made with love always tastes better." "How is Mi Young doing?" Zara asked. She remembered everything Jin told her about his life. "Better," Thanks to you, Jin said. The credits you paid. Let me get her the treatments she needed. The doctors say she is responding well. I am glad, Zara said, and Jin could see she truly meant it. After lunch, they sat outside the garage watching ships pass overhead. The settlement was located on a major trade route, so there was always traffic between the stars. Do you ever want to travel out there? Zara asked, pointing at the ships. Sometimes, Jin admitted. But this is my home. My family is here. My work is here. Besides, travelers always come to me eventually. Is that enough for you? Jin considered the question. I think happiness comes from doing good work and caring for people you love. I have both of those things here. Zara was quiet for a long time. Finally, she said, You are very wise for someone so young. Not wise, Jin said. Just simple. Over the following weeks, Zara's visits became regular. Sometimes she came with minor repairs, sometimes just to talk. She helped Jin with difficult projects, her alien strength useful for heavy lifting. She also began bringing small gifts, exotic foods from distant worlds, rare metals that Jin could use in his work, and once, a set of precision tools that must have cost a fortune. You do not need to bring me things, Jin protested after she arrived with an expensive diagnostic computer. I want to help, Zara said. You have helped me more than you know. How? I just fix your bike. Zara looked at him with an expression he could not read. You treat me like a person, not what I am supposed to be. Jin did not understand what she meant, but he could hear pain in her voice. Everyone deserves to be treated with respect, he said simply. What Jin did not know was that Zara's visits had not gone unnoticed. Word was spreading through certain channels that someone very important was spending time at a small garage on the outer rim. Corporate scouts had begun watching the settlement, trying to understand why an heir to one of the galaxy's largest fortunes would repeatedly visit a poor human mechanic. Zara also did not realize that her regular absences from family duties were causing concern among the Valorian commercial empire's leadership. They were beginning to ask questions about where their future leader was spending her time. But for now, both Jin and Zara were simply happy to have found an unexpected friendship. Jin looked forward to her visits, and Zara had discovered something she had never experienced before: genuine companionship, with no agenda attached. I should go, Zara said as the sun began to set after another pleasant afternoon. I have been away too long already. Will I see you again soon? Jin asked. Yes, Zara said, mounting her bike. I will always come back here. As she rode away, Jin felt a strange sadness. Each time she left, he wondered if it would be the last time. There was something about Zara that felt too good to last, like she belonged to a different world entirely. He had no idea how right he was, or how soon that other world would come looking for her. Jin was working under the hood of an old transport when he heard expensive ground cars approaching his garage. He slid out from beneath the vehicle and saw 3 black vehicles parking in front of his shop. Men in dark suits got out, all wearing the same cold expressions. Are you Jin Park? The lead man asked in a voice that suggested he already knew the answer. Yes. Can I help you? We represent Galactic Development Corporation. We want to buy your property. Jin wiped his hands on a rag, studying the men. They did not look like they were used to taking no for an answer. It is not for sale. 1. The man smiled, but it was not a friendly expression. Everything is for sale, Mr. Park. We are prepared to offer you twice what this place is worth. I said it is not for sale. We know about your sister's medical bills, another man said. This money could pay for her treatments for years. Jin felt anger rising in his chest. How do you know about me, young? We know many things, the lead man said. We know this settlement is growing. We know this crossroads will be valuable. We know you need money. And we know you have been entertaining certain visitors, the third man added meaningfully. Before Jin could ask what that meant, he heard Zara's motorcycle approaching. She pulled up to the garage and immediately sensed trouble. The corporate men turned to look at her, and Jin saw recognition in their eyes. "Well, well," the lead man said. "Princess Zara herself. This explains everything." Zara removed her helmet. And for the first time since Jin had known her, she looked truly angry. "You have no business here," she said coldly. "Actually, we do," the man replied. "When the heir to the Valorian commercial empire starts slumming with mechanics, it becomes everyone's business." Jin felt like the ground had disappeared beneath his feet. "Valorian commercial empire?" The man laughed. "You did not tell your little pet human who you really are. Princess Zara is worth more than this entire system, boy." "Stop calling him that," Zara said, her voice dangerous. But Jin was staring at her with shock and hurt. Zara's face went pale. "Jin, I can explain. She is not just a princess," the corporate man continued. "She is the heir to the largest commercial empire in 3 sectors: ships, mining, manufacturing, transportation. The Valorian family owns it all." Jin felt sick. All this time, Zara had been lying to him. Every conversation, every shared meal, every moment of friendship had been built on deception. "Jin, please listen," Zara said, stepping toward him. "Stay away from me," Jin said, backing away. "Just stay away." The corporate men watched this with satisfaction. "Now that the truth is out, let us discuss business. We know the princess has been giving you money. We can offer much more." "I do not want your money," Jin said. "Then perhaps you would be interested in knowing that your sister's medical facility has some interesting financial arrangements. Arrangements that could become very expensive if certain payments were delayed." The threat was clear. Jin looked at the men with growing hatred. "You are threatening my sister?" "We are explaining reality," the lead man said. "Sell us this property, and everyone stays happy and healthy." Suddenly, Zara stepped forward. When she spoke, her voice carried authority that made the air itself seem to tremble. "You will leave this place immediately. Princess, you cannot. I am Zara, first heir of the Valorian commercial empire, and I am telling you to leave." The men looked uncertain for the first time. "Your family will not appreciate you interfering with legitimate business. Let me worry about my family." More vehicles arrived. Sleek, fast cars that Jin recognized as military-grade. Armed figures in advanced armor emerged and took positions around the garage. The corporate men suddenly looked very nervous. "Princess," one of the armored figures said, "are these men bothering you?" Zara looked at the corporate representatives with disgust. "These gentlemen were just leaving." The lead corporate man tried one last time. "This is not over, Park. You cannot hide behind her forever." "Actually, he can," Zara said coldly. "And if anything happens to him or his family, I will hold your entire corporation responsible." The corporate men retreated to their vehicles and left quickly. The armored figures took defensive positions around the area, clearly intending to stay. Jin stood in the middle of his garage, feeling like his world had been turned upside down. Everything he thought he knew was wrong. Zara was not just wealthy, she was incredibly powerful. And she had been lying to him for weeks. "Jin," Zara said softly, "I need to explain." "Explain what?" Jin said, his voice bitter. "That you have been lying to me this whole time? That you have been playing with me like some kind of pet? It was not like that. Was anything you told me true? Do you even need repairs to your bike?" Zara looked down at the ground. "No. The bike has been fine since you first fixed it." Jin felt like he had been punched. "So why did you keep coming back?" "Because being here was the only time I felt like myself," Zara said desperately. "For my entire life, everyone has wanted something from me. Power, money, influence, marriage alliances. But you You just treated me like a person. By lying about who you were. I was going to tell you, Zara said. I was afraid you would change. That you would start treating me like everyone else does. So instead you made that choice for me, Jin said. You decided I could not handle the truth. Zara had no answer for that. Jin looked around at the armed guards, the expensive vehicles, the evidence of wealth and power he could never imagine. You should go, he said quietly. Jin, please. Go back to your empire, princess. This is not your world. The pain in Zara's eyes was real. But Jin was too hurt and angry to care. She had made him feel special, made him believe their friendship was genuine. But it had all been built on lies. Zara stood there for a long moment, then slowly walked to her motorcycle. I'm sorry, Jin. I truly am. She rode away, followed by her security detail. Jin watched until they disappeared, then sat down heavily on an old crate. His small, simple world had been shattered in minutes, and he had no idea how to put it back together. The worst part was that despite everything, he missed her already. For 3 days after Zara left, Jin tried to return to his normal life. He worked on engines, helped customers, and tried not to think about white hair and crystal blue skin. But everything felt empty now. The garage seemed too quiet. His meals tasted like nothing, and he caught himself looking up every time he heard a vehicle approach. On the 4th day, Mi Young came to visit. Jin's sister was looking much better since starting her treatments, and she arrived with a concerned expression. You look terrible, she said, sitting on a workbench while Jin pretended to organize tools. I am fine. You are not fine. You have been miserable since your alien friend stopped coming around. Jin dropped a wrench. How do you know about that? Jin, this is a small settlement. Everyone knows about the beautiful alien woman who kept visiting your garage. And everyone knows she has not been here lately. Mi Young was 3 years younger than Jin. But sometimes, she seemed much wiser. She studied her brother with sharp eyes. What happened? She asked. Jin told her everything. About meeting Zara, their growing friendship, and the terrible revelation of who she really was. When he finished, Mi Young was quiet for a long time. So let me understand this, she said finally. A woman who could buy and sell entire planets chose to spend her free time here, helping you fix broken machines and eating your simple cooking. And you are angry because she did not tell you she was rich? She lied to me. She protected herself, Mi Young corrected. Jin, think about it from her perspective. How do you think people usually treat her when they know who she is? That is not the point. That is exactly the point, Mi Young interrupted. She found someone who cared about her for herself, not for what she could give them. Can you blame her for wanting to keep that? Jin sat down heavily. But everything was false. Our entire friendship was built on lies. Was it? Did she act differently when she was here? Did she demand special treatment or look down on you? No, Jin admitted. Did she seem happy here? Jin remembered Zara's laughter as they shared simple meals, her fascination with his work, the way she relaxed in the dusty garage like it was the most beautiful place in the galaxy. Yes, he said quietly. Then maybe the only lie was her name and address, Mi Young said. Everything else, the friendship, the care, the respect, that was all real. Before Jin could respond, they heard vehicles approaching. But these were not ground cars. These were spacecraft. And they landed directly in front of the garage with official authority. Jin and Mi Young went outside to see figures in rich robes emerging from elegant ships. The lead figure was clearly Valorian, tall and imposing with elaborate crystal patterns covering his blue skin. He wore robes that probably cost more than Jin would make in 10 years. You are Jin Park? The figure asked in a voice that commanded attention. Yes. I am Counselor Vex, representing the Valorian commercial empire. You will come with us immediately. Why? Because our heir has refused an advantageous marriage alliance, claiming to be in love with a human mechanic. The family wishes to meet this person. Jin felt his heart stop. Zara said that? Princess Zara has defied family orders, rejected her duties, and brought shame upon our house. All for you. The counselor's voice dripped with disgust. The family council will decide what to do about this situation. Mi Young grabbed Jin's arm. You do not have to go. But Jin was thinking about what his sister had just told him. About Zara, protecting their friendship. About her happiness in his simple world. About the pain in her eyes when she left. What happens if I do not come? He asked. The princess will be declared unfit and stripped of her inheritance. She will be exiled and forbidden from returning to Valorian space. And if I do come? That depends on whether you can convince the family council that you are worthy of their heir. It was an impossible situation. Jin was just a mechanic from a backwater settlement. What could he possibly say to alien nobility that would matter? But then he thought about Zara's face when she talked about her complicated family. He thought about how she had defended him against the corporate men. He thought about her saying that being in his garage was the only time she felt like herself. I will come, he said. Jin, no, Mi Young protested. This is dangerous. She came here for me, Jin said. She stood up to her family for me. The least I can do is stand up for her. The counselor looked surprised. You understand that speaking to the family council without proper authorization could be considered an insult worthy of severe punishment. I understand, Jin said. But I also understand that Zara is worth the risk. Mi Young hugged her brother tightly. Be careful, she whispered. And remember, you are just as good as any of them. As Jin boarded the Valorian ship, he felt fear and determination in equal measure. He had no idea what he would say to the most powerful family in 3 sectors. He only knew that Zara had chosen him over everything else she had ever known, and he could not let her face the consequences alone. The ship lifted off, carrying Jin toward the Valorian core worlds and the most important conversation of his life. In the cargo hold, his few possessions looked pitiful next to the luxury surrounding him. But Mi Young's words echoed in his mind. You are just as good as any of them. It was time to find out if that was true. During the long journey through hyperspace, Jin thought about everything Zara had taught him about her people, about their values and traditions. He thought about what made humans different, what had impressed her about his approach to problems. By the time they reached the Valorian homeworld, Jin had a plan. It was risky and probably foolish, but it was also completely human. And maybe that would be enough. The Valorian homeworld was more beautiful and terrifying than Jin had imagined. Crystal spires reached toward purple skies, and floating platforms carried elegant alien figures between buildings that seemed to glow with inner light. Everything spoke of wealth and power beyond human understanding. Jin was escorted through halls decorated with art from 1,000 worlds. His simple work clothes felt shabby among the gorgeous surroundings, but he kept his back straight and his chin up. Mi Young's words stayed with him. You are just as good as any of them. The family council chamber was enormous, with seats arranged in a circle around a central platform. 12 Valorian nobles sat in judgment, their crystal skin patterns marking them as the most important members of their species. At the head of the circle sat an elderly Valorian, whose presence commanded absolute attention. Zara's father, the Emperor himself. Zara sat in a chair that looked more like a cage than a seat. Her hands were bound with energy restraints, and her face was carefully blank. But when Jin entered the chamber, her eyes widened with shock, and something that might have been hope. So, the Emperor said, his voice echoing through the chamber. This is the human who has corrupted my daughter's judgment. Jin stood on the platform at the center of the circle, surrounded by beings who could destroy his entire world with a word. But he thought about Zara sitting in her cage and found his courage. Your Majesty, Jin said, bowing respectfully. I have not corrupted anything. I have simply been myself. Yourself? One of the council members laughed. A primitive mechanic from a backwater world? You dare to claim equality with the first heir of our empire? I do not claim equality, Jin said calmly. I claim that worth is not measured by birth or wealth, but by character and actions. The Emperor leaned forward. Interesting. Jin had prepared for this moment during the long journey. I fixed her motorcycle when it broke down. I treated her with kindness and respect. I shared my food and my time without asking for anything in return. And when I learned who she really was, I was hurt not because she was wealthy, but because she had not trusted me with the truth. You were hurt by learning of her status? Another counselor asked with surprise. I was hurt by the deception, Jin corrected. But I understood why she did it. Your daughter told me that everyone in her life wanted something from her. I was the first person who simply enjoyed her company. Zara's father studied Jin with intelligent eyes. And what do you want from her now? Nothing that she does not want to give freely, Jin said. I want her to be happy. I want her to feel valued for who she is, not what she owns. I want her to know that someone cares about her thoughts and dreams, not just her inheritance. Pretty words, the Emperor said. But my daughter is destined for more than a simple life with a poor human. She has responsibilities to her people, to the Empire. With respect, Your Majesty, Jin said. The best leaders are those who understand what it means to live simply, to work hard, to care for others. Your daughter learned these things in my garage. One of the counselors spoke up. You speak of simple life, human. But can you understand the complexity of governing an empire? The delicate balance of trade agreements and political alliances? Jin smiled. I understand that complex systems work best when all the parts trust each other. I understand that forcing components to work against their nature leads to failure. And I understand that sometimes the best solution is the simplest one, even if it seems impossible at first. Okay. The chamber fell silent. Then the Emperor stood up, and Jin felt the weight of absolute authority. You compare governing an empire to fixing machines? I compare both to understanding how things work together, Jin said. Your daughter once told me that Valorians plan everything carefully, that you analyze data and follow procedures. But humans approach problems differently. We trust instinct. We try new solutions. We take risks. Maybe your empire needs both approaches. The Emperor walked down from his seat to stand directly in front of Jin. You are either very brave or very foolish. Human. Probably both, Your Majesty. Something unexpected happened then. The Emperor smiled. Zara, he said without turning around. Is this human always so direct? Always, Zara said, speaking for the first time since Jin arrived. It is one of the things I love about him. The Emperor studied Jin for a long moment. My daughter has refused 3 marriage proposals from suitable Valorian nobles. She has abandoned her duties and defied family orders. All for you. I never asked her to do any of those things. No, the Emperor agreed. But you gave her something she had never experienced before. The freedom to choose, based on her heart, rather than her obligations. Jin waited, unsure what response was expected. My daughter has always been brilliant but isolated. The Emperor continued. She needed to learn compassion, to understand how ordinary people live. It seems you taught her both. 1. She taught me things too, Jin said. About courage, about standing up for what matters. The Emperor nodded slowly. Very well. I will make you both an offer. Zara, you may choose your own path, but only if you prove you can balance personal happiness with your duties to the Empire. Zara's restraints disappeared. What do you mean? You and your human will establish a new division of the empire, one focused on helping struggling communities and developing relationships with smaller worlds. You will show that love can strengthen rather than weaken leadership. Jin felt overwhelmed. Your Majesty, I know nothing about running an empire. But you know about fixing things that are broken, the Emperor said. And you know about treating people with dignity regardless of their status. Those skills are more valuable than you realize. Zara stood up and walked to Jin's side. Are you willing to try this? It will not be easy. Jin looked at her. Really looked at her. For the first time since learning the truth, she was still the same person who had shared simple meals in his garage, who had laughed at his stories and helped him with difficult repairs. The wealth and power were real, but so was everything else they had built together. I am willing, he said. If you are. The Emperor clapped his hands once. Then it is decided. Welcome to the family. Jin Park. 6 months later, Jin stood in a new kind of garage, one equipped with the most advanced technology in the galaxy, but still smelling of honest work. The Park Zara Development Initiative had helped 12 struggling communities and established trade relationships with 6 previously ignored worlds. Zara entered the workshop, wearing work clothes similar to his own, her hair tied back, and her hands dirty from the project they were building together. A new type of engine that could be manufactured cheaply, but perform reliably. How is it going? She asked, looking over his shoulder at the prototype. Almost ready, Jin said. This design will let smaller worlds maintain their own transportation without depending on expensive imports. 1817. Creeside. Zara smiled and kissed his cheek. I love watching you work. Even now that you know I am just a mechanic who got lucky? Especially now, she said. Because I know that the person I fell in love with is exactly who you have always been. Outside their workshop, ships arrived daily, bringing new challenges and opportunities. But inside, surrounded by tools and projects and the smell of honest work, Jin and Zara continued building something neither of their worlds had seen before. A partnership based on love, respect, and the simple human belief that everyone deserves a chance to choose their own happiness.